Mishnah in Avot teaches us Asor Nisyonos Nisnas Avraham Avinu V'Amad B'Kulo, that there were 10 Nisyonos. We translate that as challenges or tests. 10 especially difficult circumstances in his life that afflicted Avraham Avinu. There's a difference of opinion in the Meforshim what exactly those 10 were, because if we review the life of Avraham, it seems that there were more than 10. So what are the 10 that the Mishnah refers to? That I mentioned there are different lists, so to speak, amongst the Meforshim as to what the Nisyonos were. But they all agree that one of the Nisyonos is this week's opening posuk. Lech lecha me'artzecha me'moladetecha me'beis avicha el ha'aretz asher areka. Avraham Avinu is told to leave the land of his birth, the society that he knew, and he's told to go to an uncertain future. El ha'aretz asher areka. The Oretz turns out to be Eretz Yisrael, and the Rebbeinu Shalom commits to him, so to speak, that this land will be given to his children, and that this is the land that the Lord intended for him and his descendants. So in the Torah, it says, Ve'artzecha, from your land, your nation, so there are 3 levels here that describe really the life of an immigrant. Many of us are immigrants here. So the first stage, which is really the easiest, is me'artzecha. So physically we leave the land that we lived in, and we live in a different country. We adopt citizenship in a different country. That is a very common thing in the world, especially in our times when the world is very mobile. People are always moving, and people are always emigrating. And in fact, we see that one of the great issues that exist in all societies is the question of immigration. How many immigrants to allow? Are there criteria? But that's the easiest thing, is me'artzecha. So he's no longer a citizen of Mesopotamia, he comes to the land of Canaan. But then there's the second level, which is more difficult already. And that's mimoladetecha, from where you were born. Because that's the influence of who you were. You know, I always say, you can take people out of a certain place, but you can't take that place out of the person. That becomes part of us. And we see that in the kibbutz golios that we are so fortunate to witness here in Eretz Yisrael, is that even though everybody that came here left me'artzecha, they didn't necessarily leave mimoladetecha. In fact, there are entire political parties that are based upon where you came from. Because where you came, moladetecha is a culture. It's an education. It's a society. It's the way people behave. So that becomes a much more difficult, because that's not physical. That already requires a departure from habit, from the way people think. That's mental and emotional and social, all of which are very, very difficult to accomplish, so that it remains as pretty much the way the person was. And Rebbeinu Shalom demands from Avraham that he depart from Moladet lecha as well. And that is the most difficult, the highest level of challenge and difficulty is Mibeis Avicha, from your family, from your roots, from what made you a person. How do you see yourselves? And for instance, there are shilas in halacha. If someone wants to make aliyah to Eretz Yisrael, and his parents don't want him or her to make aliyah, we'll say for very legitimate reasons. Or it's a question on, that's a question of kibbut avein, but there's also a question that they need someone to help them, to care for them. They reach an age where they need help. And now the children want to go, now that they want to leave. So this is discussed in all of the poskim, and the general consensus is that the child is allowed to go over the objections of the parents. That's part of the general perspective of Chazal, is that parents should not control children. And that expresses itself, for instance, that parents cannot forbid the child from marrying a person that they don't think that that's the right person. So many times the parents are right. We're not talking here chas v'sholom about marrying outside the faith, but we're talking generally. But the halacha is that the child, he or she, need not listen to that. Because Chazal saw that parents have to relinquish control, and the lives of the children, all of us tend to relive our lives through our children. And Chazal saw that the Torah did not demand that, did not approve of that. And therefore, the child wants to leave and go to Eretz Yisrael, then he or she is justified in so doing. And in fact, the parents should raise no objections once it has been decided. So, but that's Mibeis Avicha. And Beis Avicha, again, is the highest form of the challenge. It's the most difficult of all the departures. It limits completely what the person is doing. So when the Rebbeinu Shalom told Avraham that he has to leave me'artzecha, me'moladetecha, me'beis avicha, that is an enormous challenge. And we see later that Avraham Avinu finds it hard to leave Mibeis Avicha when he wants to find shidduch for Yitzchak, he sends him back to the family. Just as Yaakov, when he wants to flee from Esav and find his own way in the world, also goes back to the family. Even though the family is not what Avraham would want it to be. I mean, Psuel is not necessarily the mechutin that he would choose. And Lavan is certainly, Chazal have a very dim view of Lavan. Say, Lamad, Ma Bikesh Lavan Arami. What's a lech or a sakol? He wanted to destroy everything. Nevertheless, family is family. And when crises occur, choices have to be made. So you cannot say that somehow we left the family. We're not involved with the family. And that explains, for instance, Avram's relationship with Lot. That even though we can see it in the Parsha, that even though Lot is not what he should be, that he's an ingrate, Avram, the Gamla Lot, lech Avram, he became very, very wealthy, and everything that he had was because of Avraham. But he, in the end, says, I don't want to have anything to do with him. Then he goes to live in Sodom, so he doesn't have to be by Avraham. And yet, when Lot is captured by the kings, so then Avraham saves him. Avraham had no intention to intervene in the milchama. It went on for decades. It's only when they captured Lot that Avraham vayorak es chanichav, and he is going to war to save Lot. And later in next week's parsha, when Sodom is destroyed, so again Lot is saved because of Avraham. Even though, as I mentioned, Lot is not the ideal person that Avraham intends to build the world through him. But it's family. And because it's family, it's hard to discard. And we see that played out in Jewish life. It's the breakdown of family that's the breakdown of Jewish life. That's what really is the core issue that destroys everything. So therefore the Torah poses these challenges to Avraham. And that's included in the lech lecha. Now Rashi points out that lech lecha, the word lecha there is l'tovoscha, l'anhoscha. Even though it looks like I am imposing a terrible burden upon you, but it's really for your benefit. You become well known in the world. Everybody will be blessed from you. But that does not minimize the challenge and the soil. And Avraham feels that all of his life. And he will say later to the Bnei Ches, when he wants to have a grave for Sarah, he'll say, Ger v'toshav anochi imocha. He's been there a long time, 50, 60, 70 years. But an immigrant is always an immigrant. He'll always have an accent. Never departs. And therefore that's why he says this. because that's what he feels. So that's the challenge that is implicit in the soyam that the Torah records for us of lech lecha me'artzecha u'moladtecha mebeis avicha. Rabbi Hanani ben Akash Omer, Rotza HaKadosh Baruch Hu B'zakas es Yisrael, v'fil chachir b'lahem Torah mitzvot shenemar Adonai chafetz man tzidko yagdilu Torah v'yagdilu.
He's got a Shmei Rabba. Yom Adi Baruch Hu Yom Lech Malchus Sei. Hi, Chon Yom Lechon.